financial exploitation. I will not read most of my testimony, but again, there's a theme that we're developing here in this committee, and in some respects, I think this bill relates to the bill we just heard. It relates to some of the bills we heard yesterday regarding the need for home care. And the theme is that if we do the right things at various times in people's lives, we can really support them as they get older, and we can help them remain at home. And we talk a lot about the positive financial impact of that to all of us. But really, even more important, it's respectful of what most people really want, which is to stay in their communities, stay in their homes, stay among their families, and live independent lives for as long as they can. I mean, I think, I'm not going to say it's universal, but I think it's pretty close to universal that we understand that that's what people want. A lot of the bills that we hear talk about the healthcare aspect of that. But this bill is a little bit different. This bill is really about helping older Mainers manage other parts of their lives and protecting them from exploitation and abuse. And that's really the focus of this bill. We don't really talk too much about elder abuse in this committee, but there are some important things to understand that I'd like us to understand in order to frame this discussion. There are estimates of 1 in 9 adults over the age of 60 will be the victim of elder abuse. 1 in 5 of these will be a victim of financial exploitation. 90% of that abuse comes from family members, as difficult it is for us to understand and accept that. And that even our older neighbors with very low incomes are oftentimes the target of exploitation because they have a steady and reliable stream of income, things like Social Security, maybe small pensions. And like a lot of other issues around exploitation and fraud, once the money's gone, it's gone. Prosecution is sometimes an option, but usually restitution is out of the question. Preventing bad things from happening is a lot easier than fixing them once they've happened. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So what does this bill do? In a very small way, this bill creates a funding line in the budget for a long-standing program called Money Minders. And Money Minders helps older Mainers maintain independence and financial security. It matches well-trained, skilled, insured volunteers with clients who need help minding their financial matters as they get older. Volunteers help sort mail, create basic budgets, prepare, not sign, checks, and balance check registers on bank statements. It's been a highly successful program, and it helps older Mainers stay on top of their bills and bring peace of mind to them. It's a free service for people 55 and older who meet program guidelines, people of low and moderate income and assets. And again, it recognizes the fact that there are a lot of older adults who need assistance in managing their bills and checkbooks for a lot of reasons. Again, this is not intended to supplant powers of attorney, and other tools for people who are really at a point in life where they can't manage their own lives. This is really for people, who may have physical disabilities, maybe they're blind, maybe they have severe arthritis, maybe they've recently lost a spouse who was the person who managed money in the family and had never managed a checkbook or a monthly budget. Some are really seeking peace of mind and safety in a world where people are bombarded by telephone calls and mail order scams, they really are targeted towards elder people. So Money Minders volunteers really try to help older adults maintain independence while ensuring bills are paid on time, are not paid multiple times, and that periodic payments are made. They're trained people to help other older neighbors avoid financial exploitation. This program has existed for nearly 2 decades. It's been administered by the area agencies on aging, and we're going to hear some testimony about the details of the program. There was a John T. Gorman grant that supported this program up through 2014. That money is no longer available. And what this does is it creates a line in the budget, a small line to support the program. Again, the volunteers for the program have been trained. They are screened. They go through background information. These are the questions that I asked when I first talked to the AAAs about bringing these, about bringing this program. And again, I think this is an important program that really helps people. Again, one of these kind of low-touch ways, and I hope the committee would support it. When I first talked to the AAAs about this program, it sounded very familiar to me, and I realized, I had a conversation, my mother-in-law has been a money minder volunteer for several years, and if you know her, she would be the prototype of the kind of person that you would want. She worked for many years at a bank. She's always managed the money in their home. She helps us all out with our taxes. She's a super efficient, put together woman, a retiree herself, and she's exactly the kind of person that you would want going in and helping your neighbor, with tasks that just become a little bit more difficult for folks as they get older. And that's who I think about when I think about this program. So anyway, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions. As is always the case, I've got some folks behind me who know a lot about the nuts and bolts.
Thank you very much, Representative Gattini. Thank you for the bill. Are there any questions from the committee at this point in time? Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.
Are there any co-sponsors of this bill who would like to speak at this time? Seeing none in the room, except the ones that aren't moving, I will move on to those folks who are proponents of the bill, those people in favor of the bill. Thank you.
Senator Haskell, Representative Gattini, members of the Health and Human Services Committee. My name, again, is Jessica Maurer. I'm the Executive Director of the Maine Association of Area Agencies on Aging, and I am also providing testimony in support of LD 1348 on behalf of the Maine Council on Aging. And again, Representative Gattini has done a remarkable job of talking about the Money Minders program. I just wanted to give you a few more sentences about the history of the Money Minders program. It was actually a program that was initially thought of by AARP. They provided some funding for it way back when, and this is actually something I feel extraordinarily passionate about, because I was part of an effort in the early 2000s with AARP on behalf of the Attorney General at the time, Steve Rowe, and many other folks in Maine who helped to roll out Money Minders on a statewide basis once before. And unfortunately, the grant money from AARP dried up, and the area agencies on aging were not able to find additional funding for the program, and several of them stopped providing the service for a number of years. Fortunately, Southern Maine Agency on Aging really was committed and saw the benefit of the program and continued to develop it further, fundraising and going after additional grants, and have really designed a remarkable program that runs today and serves a number of people in Southern Maine. I wanted to then say, fast forward, that the Maine Council for Elder Abuse Prevention, another group that you've never heard of, because we don't talk about elder abuse typically in the Health and Human Services Committee. We do in criminal justice and other places. That organization has done just an amazing thing, which is to create a partnership called, a program called Senior Safe, and it's a partnership between the Maine Bankers Association, the Maine Credit Union League, Adult Protective Services, Legal Services for the Elderly, and the Area Agencies on Aging. Long-Term Care Ombudsman is a part of this work, and what this does is it helps tellers and bank managers identify clients or customers, consumers, depositors who are potentially being victimized by financial exploitation, and to know what to do about it. And so we knew this program was about to roll out statewide. We were about to train a bunch of financial institution folks to identify the issue. And the question was, well, what's the community resource that they can refer people to protect themselves if they are getting into problems managing their own money. And that is why we went to the John T. Cormer Foundation and said, will you help us revive this program, bring it back statewide so that we can build the capacity within the area agencies on aging to provide these services across the board. I wanted to emphasize that two things that you will not find in Representative Kateen's testimony that I think are really critically important is that not only is 1 in 9 people over the age of 60 going to be victimized, a victim of elder abuse this year, and one in 5 of those people financially exploited, and not only is it their family members that are doing it, but those folks are 3 times more likely to die in the next decade than someone who is not victimized. And you can really understand this. Folks who lose everything, lose their capacity to pay for their basic needs, often will lose their house, experience extreme stress. Victims who have been victimized by losing a lot of money often are hospitalized with hypertension, heart attacks, those sorts of things. So it has a direct impact on the health of people who are victimized. And then finally, I want to say that the cost of financial exploitation to older Americans is about $2.9 billion annually. And so again, this is one of those instances where prevention is definitely worth a pound of cure, I think, as they say, right? So that investing in this program and protecting people from losing their life savings is really one of the most important pieces of the program.
Thank you very much. I know you had a lot of material to cover.
I have a lot to cover.
Time, so.
There's a lot of good
But
data in the testimony I've provided.
I appreciate all the data that's in the written testimony, and thank you for providing that to us. Are there any questions for Ms. Bond? Representative Burstein.
Thank you, Senator. I love this idea. And one of the reasons is I had a grandmother who, every time she got a credit card in the mail, thought that she was supposed to go and use it, and so she did. So my question to you now, is it just in southern Maine at this point?
No, it's now statewide. All of, also in my testimony, we created a steering advisory council. We looked at all sort of possible sustainability methods and really only came to the conclusion that state funding is the only way to fund it, but it is currently available in all 5 of the AAAs statewide.
And so when older folks can use this, how do they they just know that it's in the community, or is it part of the meal, their daycare?
Yeah, well, in fact, we do provide lots of information about it from the AAAs, but the other thing we have done is develop these wonderful partnerships with the Maine Association of Retirees, the Bankers Association, the Credit Union League. All of these people are our partners, and so, and Legal Services for the Elderly is probably our #1 referral source. Also Adult Protective Services, when they get a referral to say, this person, whether it's from the law enforcement officers or some other entity, they're not going to do something. That person's not going to come into protective custody. If they want to make sure that they're surrounded by services, they'll make a referral to the Money Minders program so that we can help. So we get a lot of referrals. Once the bank training happened, I did the training for the tellers. It was almost instantaneous that we were getting referrals from banks.
And do you have plenty of volunteers?
Well, yes and no. You'll also see in my testimony this year, because we were unsure about the funding, we grew the program very slowly. And so we tried to grow volunteers and client base at the same time so that we wouldn't have one outpacing the other. But banks are remarkably also a wonderful source of volunteers, because their tellers are allowed to do community service. And so while they can't do the work for their own customers, they can actually be Money Minder volunteers for customers in other banks, and they've been terrific sources of volunteers for us, as well as the Maine Association of Retirees. They have 20,000 members and a newsletter and an email distribution list. And when we rolled this out last year, we had the hardest time finding volunteers in Millinocket and Bar Harbor. Strange. It was sort of a weird, but we couldn't find anybody, and so both the banks we were working with and the Maine Association of Retirees would put blasts out to say, we need a volunteer here to do this work, and we were able to find them really successfully. So.
Oh, great! Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions or summaries?
Thank you. Yeah, it seems odd to me that you can't find someone else to fund it, because it sounds like it would just, they would, you know, the banks, the credit unions would just
Oh,
grab
yes.
on this as great PR for them, and
Indeed.
and I'm just asking, did you really pushed and people really
Oh, yes.
went out?
They love the program, let me tell you.
Yeah,
They
I can
do.
imagine they do.
But
Okay.
they say that they do not have sufficient resources to fund it. I believe me, I spent a lot of
Anyone
time.
listening out there?
Would be, no.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I'm going to,
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else in favor of this LD? We were trying to run a on-deck circle here.
Oh, yeah, I'm leaving.
So, you might want to think about that. It's actually been fairly effective today just to have people recognize that they're it helps people from standing in the wings here, which we have a lot. Can't always do it with a big crowd, but I think we can today. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Catlin Blackstone, and I'm a resident of Portland. And I serve as the Director of Community Services at the Southern Maine Agency on Aging, which I will, from now on, refer to as SMA in the interest of saving time. I am the Director of Community Services, and I would love to provide support for LD 1348. As Representative Gattine said, and Jessica after, I think they gave you a really good overview of what the Money Minders program is capable of. So I will just flesh out some of the details for you, because I think there are many things that haven't been brought up yet. SMA ran with this program about 2 decades ago, and as Jessica said, AARP was a big help for us in getting this going. So in the summer of 1997, we conducted a survey, and we found that people in our service area, which is Cumberland and York counties, frequently faced eviction notices because of the difficulty in getting their rent checks paid. They failed to make medical or other insurance payments on time, and therefore lost their coverage and needed to be reinstituted into these programs. They lost other benefit programs, such as their SNAP benefits and Maine Care, because they weren't able to fill out the recertification papers, the annual recertification papers. They signed up for things they didn't know they signed up for, and they were receiving gifts in the mail that they didn't realize they had ordered. They had bills piling up. And they were showing up at their banks asking for help, and large banks are not capable of sitting down with people and reconciling their checkbook accounts every month. They're simply not able to do that. So this is why we did this, and it has been funded 1 year, as Jess said. That was 2014, and that allowed us to take this program statewide and help the other AAAs get up and running with their Money Minders program. We continue to hold this program, and we fund it by me begging and borrowing and always asking for money, never stealing. And when we have budget problems at my agency, like we all face budget issues, Money Minders program is always up at the top of the list for cuts because it's not funded. And your point about why don't banks do this, that is a huge mystery to me. They all love it, but they're not willing to fund it. So it's a big problem. I wanted to let you know, aside from the volunteers who are thoroughly vetted and background checked and trained, we also have a core of volunteers who do the monitoring and auditing of all the bank accounts. So we've got 2 sets of very highly skilled volunteers, and they are accountable to an advisory council, and that advisory council consists of a representative from Adult Protective Services, someone from Social Security, the former manager of a large bank, and some past bookkeepers. So they know what they're talking about, they understand the issues that are going on, and they guide the volunteers through this. I also have a full-time coordinator. She's down to half-time now because of the funding issues, but she is their point person. The beauty of this program, in my opinion, is that they're housed in the agencies on aging. That means that if there's a problem with a client or a volunteer, they can contact the coordinator of the program, and the coordinator of the program has all of community services behind her to find out what the root of the problem is and how can we go forward. So if someone discovers a scam that's going on, discovers money missing from a bank account with no explanation, that Money Minders volunteer contacts the coordinator, and the coordinator has all of us backing her up, trying to find the root of this problem. How did this happen? I want to just say that Representative Gattin said, you know, once the money's gone, it's gone, and that is so true with financial exploitation. I've left you with a couple of success stories in this piece of paper, and I just want to quickly let you know that the last thing I want to leave you with is a non-successful story. And that is, a few days ago, a lieutenant from the police department in Portland called me and said that a 93-year-old woman in Portland was just scammed out of $6,000. $6,000 to her was her life savings. And what shocked him the most was that the scammer told this woman if he didn't believe her, he could call this lieutenant. And they gave her his number, his desk number. So she called the police department, and she got his voicemail. He said, "This is Lieutenant Sweat. I am a police officer of the Portland Police Department." So that was all she needed. Of course, he wasn't there. So she went to her bank and withdrew the $6,000 and sent it to who knows where. It's a black hole. It will never be recovered. And Lieutenant Sweat said to me, if I'd only known about your Money Minders program, or if she'd only known about it, this maybe couldn't have happened, wouldn't have happened. And I couldn't agree more. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Blackstone. Appreciate you being here. Are there any questions?